The RTX 5070 is one of the few cards from the new RTX 3000 lineup that's actually in stock at a decent price. So here we are with what is right now one of the best value builds you can get out there. It's either this or something with an AMD RX 9000 series card. Now you can either copy the build I'll be doing here today or just take inspiration on how to do it. The interesting thing is gonna be the CPU choice. So I went back one generation because these CPUs are really cheap, and I've gotten a Ryzen 7 7800 X3D because you can buy it at the moment for around half price of a 9800 X3D. And the 9800 X3D is just marginally faster. So I think this is better to buy for the mid-range. You could actually go as far as to buy a Ryzen 7 7700, which is basically what Brian from Techia City is recommending from AliExpress. You can buy one for around 150 bucks. And I actually agree very much with that as well. Because if you want to get a really good deal on an X3D chip, you're gonna have to either get it used or just look for it for a while. Whereas with a Ryzen 7 7700, you can just buy it off the get-go. Now, whether you're getting a 7700 or a 7800 X3D, either way, you can cheap out on your motherboard. Now, you may think that's usually not a good idea, but in this case, it is actually a good idea. However, don't do like I did. I'm gonna show you guys the motherboard I had gotten initially for this build, and it's just trash. No VRM heatsinks, single NVMe slot, just 2 RAM slots, terrible I/O, and also it looked really bad, but luckily for me, it was actually broken out of the box, so I just sent it back and I actually rebuilt the PC with a slightly better motherboard. But the motherboard I recommend from you guys is a Chinese special Qingyue motherboard, like the B650 I've reviewed on the channel. I actually reviewed 2 separate ones, one ITX and one micro ATX. You can get either, and they're both gonna be fine and very cheap. Then of course, if you wanna just buy mainstream motherboard, what I have here is a Gigabyte mid-range board. It's the DS3H, and this is also gonna work great, but it's gonna cost slightly more, and for the same price have slightly less features. The only important thing is that you buy a B650 because you want to be able to tweak your CPU, because people think 7800 X3D is a locked CPU. It's not. It actually gets a lot of performance gains if you tweak it right with the right RAM and if you do everything correctly. So you should get a decent motherboard, at least a B650. If you want to expand on this topic, I actually have a dedicated video on how to buy motherboards from Ryzen, but really, for the sake of this video, just buy a cheap B650 if you want to do something like this. And then buy cheap 6000 MHz RAM. I bought some XPG from Adata. It's their gaming lineup. They have anime girls on the packaging. I use them all the time on the channel. They're very good. These ones were 6400 MHz, which you can enable off the get-go. And then if you follow my RAM optimization guide, and by the way, for the 7800 X3D, I have a dedicated undervolting guide. If you want to see how it is actually unlocked, even though they tell you the overclocking is locked, you can go check that one out. If you go ahead and tweak your RAM too, you can actually increase the FCLK a little bit and get perfect performance. For the cooler, I did something different because we wanted to stay on a budget, and Gamdias just released their Boreas P2 62D. And it's a full tower air cooler with 2 fans, dual tower technically, cooler with 2 fans, and an LCD screen on the top. It's not actually an LCD screen. Well, it is a screen, but it's not a programmable LCD screen. They also released a cooler with a programmable screen, but I will cover that one very soon on the channel, so not yet. But this one is their cheapest option, coming in at around 50 bucks, and it's able to cool an 8-core 16-threaded Ryzen with ease while keeping the PC also pretty quiet. Now, the little issues I've had with it, so you control it from usual Gamdias software, but you cannot rotate the LCD screen. You can basically just decide if you want to see CPU degrees or fan speed, and that's about it. So it's very basic, but it's also very cheap, and with the screen turned on, it looks kind of cool. So it's definitely recommended. It's also very easy to install. It was actually easier than a lot of all-in-one water coolers, because usually water coolers are just quicker to install compared to air cooler. Then you have to, of course, mount the radiator, but this one was actually pretty fast, so I was pretty happy with it. For the SSD, we went with XPG as well, just a cheap drive, and honestly, just bought it because it was cheap. It's nothing too impressive, let's be honest, but it does what it promises to do, so it's pretty good. Now, here's the interesting part, okay? So this video was meant to be like, I'm gonna do something crazy and use a power supply and a case, which you guys never saw before, and the case I actually did. Now, this is the GameMax Vista White case, which is insanely good for a cheap case. This is not a premium case, this is a very cheap case, cheap build quality that overall comes in at a budget price point, but has a lot of interesting stuff. And I was supposed to also use the power supply, but the power supply came in broken. Now listen, I got it from the factory directly, so if you buy it like on Amazon, you're not gonna have this problem, but they shipped it already mounted into the case, which was a terrible idea. So it broke during transport, so I can't test the power supply for you guys. I actually finished up the build with another power supply. I had to dismount the whole thing. So I don't know if that says anything about the quality of their power supplies, to be honest, okay? Just let me say, if I have the chance to test one in the future, you maybe wait to buy, but the case is actually very good. Now, it is not very good as in premium, you know, this is not premium, it's plasticky, it's relatively cheap. However, it is very cheap, and it comes in with 5 included RGB fans, and the bottom ones have reverse blades, top ones are straight, and they all have RGB, which is also addressable by the motherboard. The motherboard has a back fan cooling the back of it, which if you do proper overclock is actually very handy. It can be, especially if you were gonna use a motherboard with no VRM heatsinks, where you're gonna need all the airflow you can. And overall, with this configuration, the system is extremely cool. I'm gonna show you guys the numbers. For example, after running Firestrike, which was a crazy good score, by the way, the GPU only went to around 50 degrees. Now, which GPU did I get? I got the solid OC from Zotac, which I reviewed on the channel. It's one of the cheapest 5070s you can find at the moment, and it actually looks good because it's not full black like Gigabyte's versions, which I really don't like. This one is actually cool. And Zotac has done something very good this time. Again, dedicated review, it's like 5 minutes because there's not much to say. Good build quality, quiet, and it looks decent. So I don't see why you shouldn't get one. And the build pretty much came like this. Again, we managed to hit the world record in Firestrike, but also not many people test stuff with Firestrike anymore. Also, we had the PC tweaked slightly. The GPU was actually stock, because if you overclock the GPU, you can actually go quite a lot faster. Again, as usual, you know, if you're at ImWateringPSUs, you have all the tutorials on my channel, how to overclock, undervolt, get more performance. It's all on the channel. But pretty much this delivers very good performance in synthetics, because if we look at CPU-Z also, 700 points in single thread, just an undervolt, is very good for the CPU. And that is not even factoring the X3D cache. Where we see the X3D cache is in gaming. So I've tested this one, and this is severely overkill for 1080p, which is good because it means if you are a competitive player, you can buy this to max out 1080p. So if you're playing any kind of game, story-based game, 1080p, this is overkill. You don't need the CPU, just buy a cheaper CPU, save some money, and it's okay. 5070 is great, but with this combo, we are maxing out the engine in Apex Legends, doing 300 FPS 1080p. We are doing over 240 FPS in Warzone, which is crazy, with no upscaling, and we are doing like 500 FPS in Fortnite. So this is very good for competitive gaming, and the thing is, it's very good for 1440p also, because at 1440p, if we really put everything to the minimum, we are still getting closer to 300 FPS in Apex Legends. Realistically though, you're maxing out the 240 Hz target for like Fortnite, Apex, unless you want to play with really low settings. But still, crazy good competitive gaming PC for a very modest price, because let's be honest, if you're building this yourself and you put it all together like I did with an air cooler, cheap case, cheap power supply, etc., you're gonna end up spending most of your money on the GPU. So if you buy the GPU for the right price, you can probably do the whole PC for right around 1,000 bucks, probably like 1,200 if you're not super strict. Even 1,200, but it's gonna be like, for me, it's 1,000. It's gonna be just crazy good for a 5070 PC. If you think about it, like if you think about what kind of performance this GPU is delivering and which CPU we have to push it, this is crazy cheap. So I'm really happy with how the build came out today, but as usual, I want to hear what you guys think. Would you pair 5070 with a different CPU? Maybe Intel? Let me know, because I think with Intel, maybe at the moment not for gaming, but for productivity, yeah, sure. Maybe a Core Ultra 7, Core Ultra 5. We will do a build on that also. And if you would have changed anything else, let me know. And also, let me know if you tried GameMax power supplies, because I couldn't try them, and I would actually like to, okay? And see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.